Hello. As you examine the American shift towards independence starting around 1776, it's really good to go back and look at how they got there. So, when we go back to the Seven Years' War or the French and Indian War, you'll remember that um, Britain won that war. They defeated France. They gained a lot of land out of that. Um, but at the same time, they had a lot of debt. And so Britain's kind of view becomes one of we need to pay off our debts. But the colonies are going to argue when they look at the Sugar Act and later the Stamp Act, the colonies are going to argue that we have rights as British citizens, though, in how we do that. Okay. But throughout that, they want to make things right with Britain again. And so this whole period from 1754 to 1776 really becomes one of reconciliation. Okay. Um, that there's this idea that we can make things right with Britain. Well, Britain backs off the Stamp Act, but declares that they have the right to make whatever laws they want. And they will make new taxes, such as the Townsend duties, to deal with that. And so protests continue, organized boycotts continue, and there's different ways of doing that. And sometimes it leads to violence. Of course, the biggest thing is the Boston Massacre in 1770. And in fact, as a result of the Boston Massacre, Britain tries over the next couple of years to avoid that kind of violence. And so in 1773, as they eliminate a lot of taxes, they passed the Tea Act, which basically means tea will be sold directly to people at a cheaper price, but it cuts out a lot of colonial merchants. And so as a result of that, the response is the Boston Tea Party, destruction of tea. And now we see Britain come back much tougher with the intolerable or coercive acts, okay, to deal with that. And the First Continental Congress gets organized in more so in protesting Britain. And one of the things they say when they convene in 1774 is, let's wait and see how things get. Let's wait and hope that things get better. And of course, we can see the fact that they created a Second Continental Congress that things didn't. But even in that, there's still this idea of reconciliation because one of the first things the Second Continental Congress does is they issue the Olive Branch Petition. So they're planning for possible war, but they reach out with this symbol of peace, the Olive Branch Petition. They call it that because an olive branch has always been a symbol of peace, asking the king to make things right, and he rejects that. And as they arm themselves, um, this leads in April of 1775 to British troops confronting some of them, and it leads to the Battle of Lexington conquered. And so, even in all of this, there is still this attitude of reconciliation. And what you're going to see in 1776 then is a shift to independence that's not been there before. But even in all of this fighting and so on, there's this idea that we can reconcile.